for I've spent years helping MSPs market their business, but there's something that I've realized that's rather uncomfortable. The biggest growth comes from the one thing that we all avoid, picking up the phone. In this video, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, my experience with cold calling. It's a little bit of a sad story, but it has a happy ending, and it's maybe something that you can relate to in your IT business. That happy ending, though, is how I've struck gold. So my experience, my unhappy experience of cold calling, what that's led to over the last 10 years, if not more, and how I've struck gold. And I'm going to outline the exact process on how I've actually struck gold when it comes to cold calling or not cold calling in this video. And I'm going to show you the whole process you can put into place in your IT business so that you don't have to make cold calls. You can grow your business and you can get more sales appointments in the diary. That's what we're going to cover in this video. Now, let's rewind to probably about 2011 or 2012. I was working for an MSP here in the UK called Dynamic Edge. I was a senior systems engineer. I'd done technical roles my whole career, very much went from break fix into business IT support into an MSP. Very much technical in nature, did not touch the sales whatsoever. However, I realized probably about 8 years into that journey, fairly early on still in my career, that if I really wanted to change things up, I needed to be able to sell. It was simple as that. If looking around the room at all of the other technical guys, there was a few guys that were older than me, and one in particular, maybe probably about 10 years older than me, and I thought, what, do I really want to be where he is in 10 years? He was basically manager of the service desk. He was the dispatch, and he was just controlling all the engineers and where they were going and dealing with the bigger problems. And I questioned that, and I thought, I didn't know his salary at the time, but I was like, do I really want to be there? Anyway, I made a firm commitment. I was like, I'm going to do sales. I was looking at the owner of the MSP. He seemed to be very successful in what he was doing. He'd built up this really big team of really great technical guys and girls, and just a great team overall, A players. For some reason, I was part of that. But I just saw that and I thought, if I want to be successful in business, I need to be doing what he's doing. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do sales. So I put on the suit jacket and the shirt and started doing like BNI meetings and things like that. Around about 6 months into it, my colleague, who was also kind of technical, he went over to more of an account management role. And the owner decided, okay, we need to get some proper sales training in here. And they took in like the salesperson or the sales trainer that would train us up on how to do IT sales. And one of the very first tasks that they had us do was like write down a list of prospects, businesses that we would love to do business with, who would our ideal customers be. And the task was basically, we just had to pick up the phone and start speaking to them. And to tell you the truth, it was not something that I really enjoyed one little bit. We were in an open plan office, so I'd come from my technical role. I was sat across the desk from the technical team, and I was in this open plan office, and I was then having to pick up the phone, and the sales trainer was there, and there was all this pressure on me, and everyone was watching me. It felt extremely awkward, but I knew I had to make a change. So I gave it a try. I picked up the phone. I spoke to maybe about 2 people in that session. It was like the whole afternoon, and I only spoke to 2 people. What I learned from that was that I really hated cold calling, and it's maybe something that you can relate to. It's extremely uncomfortable for most people. And there's all these different systems and habits that you can put into place to make it a lot easier, but your ego gets in the way, and most people just don't want to be in an uncomfortable situation. Fast forward a little bit later, I decided I'd built up a good business network, and I'd managed to do the sales piece without doing any cold calling. I attended BNI meetings and I got referrals in. The business was doing really well, so we had quite a good name locally. I would get referrals quite easily, but they weren't regular. It wasn't consistent. So some months I had almost like I remember like a January or February, my diary was completely open. There was no sales appointments in the diary whatsoever. So I was just like, this sucks. but I know that I can sell. When I'm in front of the business owner or the decision maker and they've got a technical issue or they're not happy with their MSP, I know I can sell. It's easy because you basically just, sales is a thing as well, but you're basically just listening and you're there to help them with your expertise. So I was like, I'm going to just go and start my own business thinking that this was going to be the solution. And the biggest gap that I saw in that MSP was that we weren't doing really any marketing. We'd had a brand new website built for us at the time, but there was no real consistent marketing. So I thought in my little head, we're missing marketing. This is going to get us consistent lead flow. This is going to be the solution. But the owner wasn't want to dilute the company anymore. So it's like, you're not getting a share in the business. So I thought, I'm still young. I don't have any kids. I'm just going to go and start up my own MSP. So that's what I did for 6 months. I've got IT Rockstars. That's the business that I run today. But for probably the first 6-9 months, I basically ran an MSP. I pivoted the business from being an MSP to marketing. I gave away my clients, the client list that I built up over that time. And the one thing that stood out to me in this process was that I was very focused on the marketing, okay? But I was not driving the business forward. It was not driving the business forward. And I go back to this issue where I was working for a successful MSP that didn't do any marketing, but was getting business in the door. And then when I had my own MSP, when I was doing marketing, and I was getting good views on my YouTube, and this is when you could really game the LinkedIn, and before everyone was on LinkedIn and doing videos, you could really game the system. So I was getting really good coverage, but I just wasn't getting a sale. And it comes down to one simple thing: picking up the phone. That was the issue. Anyway, the last 6-7 years, I've been helping MSPs market their business. The IT Rockstars sales mechanism for the last 7 years is basically people land on my website and see a video like this. Then you land on my website. You can go and check out my homepage, itrockstars.net. And there's basically a sales page there. It's copy that's written in a specific way. And that copy is written to basically get you to convert into a customer. So I have never in the last 7 years had to pick up the phone and speak with a customer, member of IT Rockstars. They've always booked time in my diary, and I've got a calendar link there. So I've been doing that for 7 years, and the business has changed a little bit in that time. Things have moved on, but the one thing that's still true is I don't pick up the phone. And I know for a fact, if I did pick up the phone, my business would be 10 times better than it is right now. That's a realization that's taken me 7 years to come to bear. It's probably longer than that. If you look back, it was 2012 when I should have been picking up the phone for the other MSP. So that's the realization that I've literally come to this realization. And it's actually after having a conversation with one of our members at IT Rockstars. And I've had this moment of realization, and it's basically allowed me to strike gold when it comes to getting sales appointments in the diary, because I realize the missing cog in the MSP marketing machine. So I'm going to cover with you what that cog is in the next sort of few minutes here. But it basically allows you to never have to cold call in your business. You'll never have to do it, okay? You will have to phone people, but you'll never have to cold call. It takes it out of the equation. And anyone that you do call, they will know exactly who you are. They'll know what you're about, and they'll know why you're calling. Okay, so I'm going to show you that system here. So let me bring up my screen and show you what this looks like. So we have a IT Rockstars. As I say, I've been doing this for 7 years now, so the system's fairly refined. We first started with SEO. That's my speciality. It was search engine optimization. So it's basically relying on Google and the search to bring in leads. That works up to an extent. However, I've always found that you don't really want to rely on an algorithm for your sales in your business. It's not controllable. It's not a controllable factor. So I quickly moved from SEO to, at the time, this is going back to 2017, 2018, it was manipulating LinkedIn algorithm with videos. They worked extremely well. So did written content. We still do written content at IT Rockstars. So you can basically post up content as a LinkedIn article, as a blog article, and you can get the right eyeballs, and that will convert those eyeballs into a sales appointment. That still works, but it's a lot more difficult than it going back 5, 6 years. What is working right now, and this is taking probably 2 years to develop this system at this stage, is known as lead gen ads. These are ads that you run on the Meta platform of all places, not LinkedIn, and they're B2B. So you'll be able to attract in businesses with these lead gen ads. And we run them to either a lead magnet, but what I've found that works best is a webinar. And the reason that webinars work best or in the system is because you can build some rapport with the prospect. So when someone sees your ad in the timeline, they click the button and they will sign up for the webinar or the downloadable ebook or PDF, or maybe it's even like some sort of scan of their domain to see how secure it is. Maybe it's something like the cyber score. Out of all these different lead magnets, webinars work the best. And the reason for that is because you can build a little bit of human connection there. Person attends the webinar and you can basically meet that person. You can answer any questions that they've got. You have probably around about 20 or 25 minutes of their attention, which is extremely difficult in today's environment, like getting someone's attention because of, again, the timelines and social media is extremely difficult. So webinars work really well for multiple reasons. The next step in this process is actually to follow up with the people that have attended the webinars. And this is the bit that this was where I struck gold. And it's because of this member that I've had. And this is something that I've learned as well. The member that I had, they followed our system, they've run the ads, and I think they got like 14 leads off of one of their ads that they run last month. And I asked the member, a guy called Brett, I was like, what have you done with these leads since they've registered for your webinar? And he basically said nothing. He said, I haven't done anything with them, nothing. And he had some difficulty with the webinar. No one turned up for it. To set expectations around webinars, if you're going to be running them, you probably get around about 25% attendance rate on them. There are some mechanisms that we show you in IT Rockstars that will increase that attendance rate, but you'll only get around about 25% on a webinar. But Brett was like, yeah, I haven't done anything with these contacts they've opted into my marketing, they've opted into my webinar. And the webinar itself, I've seen his ads. So they're basically advertising in his local area. He's doing a specific vertical in manufacturing and a very specific service. It's like an IT security type service specifically for manufacturing. I don't want to go into too much of the detail. So he's doing everything right. He's got the landing page there. He's got the webinar. He's even branded the name of this service, bought the domain for the service. So from a technical and marketing perspective, he's ticking all the boxes and he's getting the leads. The lead gen ads are working. And just to prove how lead gen ads work so well, I'm in this is the campaign that I've got live here at IT Rockstars at the moment. It's been running for just over a day. The ad's been seen by 1,300 people. And I've spent like round about 50 UK pounds. You can see the cost here. And I've got in, let's see here, leads. That's what we're looking for. We've got in 11 leads. We've actually got more than that. The tracking was a little bit off. I forgot to install the Facebook tracking pixel on the webinar thank you page. We've actually got about 16 leads in, but the lead cost very low. So these lead gen ads work. You can get leads, you can get people to opt in. And I've got business emails. So people are putting in their business email address. So it's not just like Gmails and Yahoos that are coming in. It's actual business owners that are registering for this. So the lead gen ads work. And I asked Brett, I was like, okay, well, we've got everything working marketing. And this is the point of realization that I'm now having myself, because I do something very similar in my business. Is like, what's missing from this equation? What are we not doing with these leads? And I've tried things in the past. So when someone registers for the webinar, I had follow-up sequences. So my CRM, I've had 2 separate follow-up sequences. There's one for the people that attended and one for the people that didn't attend. Okay. So the one for the people that attended, the email follow-up sequence basically is, hey, really hope you enjoyed the webinar. Here's the recording if you want to rewatch it. And here's the time to book some time in my diary where we can discuss further. That was the first email follow-up sequence, and that went out over the course of a couple of days. I was using high level. You might know about that one. It's a CRM where you can actually do SMS as well. So it wasn't just emails. They were getting a little text message to say thanks for joining the webinar. And then there's the other people that weren't attending. They were also getting an email basically saying, here's the recording. Sorry you couldn't make the webinar. Let's book some time in the diary where I can, maybe 15 minutes, I can discuss and go over the webinar, what it was all about, and find out more about your business. So these email sequences have been put in place. I've run them on a few webinars. I've also done LinkedIn follow-ups. So I've followed up via LinkedIn direct messages to people that have attended the webinar and basically saying, hey, you want to get some time in the diary? And what I've found doing these email follow-ups and the LinkedIn follow-ups is that I've got zero traction. It's just nothing's worked. People are distracted. They're going to swipe past your message. So I was like, what's the solution here? We're getting people to register the webinar. We're getting people to opt in. What am I doing wrong? What's the one thing that I'm missing? What could it be? What could it potentially be? And then the moment realized, I need to be calling these people. There's only so far you can go with marketing before there's a sales element to this. You need to actually pick up the phone. You need to speak to these people. The problem is, I hate cold calling. And this is the mind exercise that I have to get into, and potentially you have to get into as well as an MSP, is that I pick up the phone to these leads who have attended my webinar. They listen to me for 20, 30 minutes, present my solution. They've opted into my marketing. They're getting my email newsletter every week. If I pick up the phone and speak to them, is it actually a cold call? And the answer is no, it's not. It's a warm call. This person knows exactly who you are. They've listened to you speak for 20 or 30 minutes in your webinar. They know exactly what you're about and who you are. There's a much higher chance that they're going to be willing to talk. They're not going to put down the phone on you immediately. Now, this is, for me, it's theory, okay? Because truthfully, right now, I'm not doing it. But I have made a commitment. My next webinar is Tuesday. I do webinars every Tuesday. Tuesdays are really good because it basically gives you the whole week to follow up with your prospects from the webinar. But I made a commitment to pick up the phone and actually just speak to these people that register onto the webinar. What makes this easy for me in my business is that they register with you have to get their work email address. The Yahoo or the Gmail addresses, they don't really work because you can't find out the company name via that. You can maybe do a LinkedIn search. Brett told me there's some sort of tool that you can use to use a personal email and find your LinkedIn profile. So you might have some luck there. So this is the commitment I've made to myself. But looking at some of the cold call reluctance videos that I've seen online, there's a whole heap of videos on cold calling. There's some really great material out there. I'll probably do another video on. But the one of the tips that I think is going to help me, and this is where maybe you come in, is that we do this together. So if you have a list in your CRM of prospects that you've maybe been sending a newsletter to, they've maybe downloaded a lead magnet off your website, or maybe you are doing webinars, you've got this list there, but you're unwilling to pick up the phone. So what I'm doing as of like next week, basically, is that I'm having a weekly call, and we already do weekly calls in IT Rockstars. It's more of a marketing call, but we're going to add the sales element in. But the sales element is more from support on and accountability. So the reluctance to pick up the phone and speak to these leads, that's what we're going to overcome together as a group. And what I've seen online, you're going to be far more successful doing this if you have other people that are going through exactly the same issue as you. So if you have a reluctance to pick up the phone, and if you want to work together towards getting the leads in, I can show you how to do that quite easily. It's a fairly straightforward system, and you want to meet on a weekly basis for accountability and just overcoming the barriers of cold calling. We can learn together. You can check out the website IT Rockstars, where you can find out more information about that. Anyway, that's the video. That's like what I wanted to cover. As I said, I've been doing this for 7 years now, and I do feel as though it's an inflection point in the business, and it's going to be an inflection point for all of the MSPs that I touch, even with this video. Because if you are honest with yourself, and it's certainly for me, I see myself and so many other MSPs, is that we distract ourselves with marketing, where in fact, if we focused more on the sales element, we would have far more successful businesses. And part of that sales element is actually speaking to people. And hopefully with the IT Rockstar system, you can turn that completely cold, uncomfortable call into a much warmer call that allows the prospect to open up and gives you a much easier path to success in your business. Anyway, take it easy, and I will hopefully see you. I might even be speaking to you at some point on the phone. So if you see an international number from the UK, it's maybe myself opening up the phone. You may be been to one of my webinars. Anyway, check out IT Rockstars if you want a hand growing your IT business. I'll catch you in the next one.